and watch the game, you can come catch the Purple in action with us. You can join Nordo at Gray's Food Hall this Sunday. Kickoff just after 7 p.m. between Minnesota and Dallas. Food, drinks, prizes every quarter. Get all the details now. KFAN.com, keyword calendar. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. I'm glad you brought that up, Brett. Gray's Food Hall, they've been tremendous hosts to these watch parties. Guardsy's done several of them. I've done a few as well. And it's right on the backside. It's behind Target Field in, I guess that's the North Loop area. But Gray's Food Hall is an awesome spot to watch the game. I will indeed be there on Sunday night, hang out. We give away free stuff, and then I come back. Hopefully, after a Vikings victory, I race to the studio to do fan line. So if you are looking for a place to watch the game, the road games, you can go to any game at Gray's Food Hall. But we do watch parties during the away games. Kegs and Eggs was fun during the Cleveland one. Border battle with the Packers at Lambeau. The game was absolutely awful, but the environment and the vibe at Gray's was always good. Gray's as in you graze on the multiple food options they have, and of course the great drinks as part of that equation. So I will be at Gray's Food Hall on Sunday night before doing Fan Line, and hopefully I'm watching J.J. McCarthy continue to take his steps, watching this defense and what Brian Flores has put together over 2025. And I'm watching a team that continues to find their way, continues to play hard each and every week, despite some of the trials and tribulations of a 2025 year. Come hang out at Gray's Food Hall and watch it all unfold. And with that said, welcome to the head coach, now in studio here for X's and O's.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joins us as he is wont to do each and every Tuesday for X's and O's. Once again, multiple cameras here. We were at Toys for Tots last week. How about the kids at Toys for Tots last week? Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, it was awesome. What a cool event. I got to be honest, though, it was kind of nice and to be in here kind of solo, and felt like you in your early radio career where you were.
What do you mean?
Doing all jobs at once, and it just was quiet. And
what do you mean?
Very calm in here.
And I found being at Shields, philanthropically speaking, raising money for others, I was able to streamline like where my heart's coming from, and like the heart of the station and the team and everything.
It was phenomenal.
I thought it was great.
But it is great to have you guys back.
It's great to see you again too. Yeah. Now we got that extra page camera there.
Yep.
You didn't have Paige Yeager, didn't have to deal with it last week. But we want to welcome those watching on the new camera. And this is X's and O's on the KFAN, vast and ever-expanding Minnesota Vikings audio network. And with Kevin O'Connell, we're going to begin here. I thought it was cool that you gave Jonathan Hargrave Javon Hargrave a game ball after the Commanders shutout. Big people making athletic plays.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. And with the forced fumble and the fumble recovery, and it's by the sideline, record ain't great. Big people, everybody continuing to give everything. I just thought that was a really cool moment when you recognized it and gave him a game ball.
Yeah, forcing turnovers has been something we've talked a lot about, and it coincided with us playing with a lead, which obviously helps our defense be able to have maybe some more opportunities than when people can kind of hide the football throughout the game and not need to really put themselves in any sort of harm's way. But thought that was a big part of the game, and I'll tell you what, from where you probably had a much better vantage point of the play than I did, far sideline, all of a sudden you just see him flying over there, and you think he's just going to make the tackle, and he comes up with the football. So I had to take a look at that one on tape that night, and what a play. And he's really, he probably hasn't gotten the type of recognition, that he probably deserves, especially when you talk about since the bye week, what he's done, the consistency, what he's done, and given us some really, really high quality snaps to go along with Red and obviously J.A. and the rest of the group.
You and I were both about equidistance from the play. Took me about 5 seconds to figure out what happened. Big difference is I had binoculars and you didn't.
That's right.
And you were field level with a bunch of big people in front of you.
That's right.
So it's with Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. It's for people like me. Okay, I can watch the film. I can watch the all 22. I probably have access to answers that maybe some others don't if I choose to ask. But I've been a Javon Hargrave fan all of his career.
Yeah.
From his first year where he had a fumble recovery touchdown, I think with Pittsburgh, he's played in Super Bowls and everything. But it's apparent that, it's abundantly apparent that the way defenses run here is different than systems that he's played in before. Yeah. So I know from doing this as long as I have without, properly explaining it, because I don't know how, well, there's going to be something different, with the defensive tackle or the 3 technique. So then you mesh that with stats and numbers and things like that, and they're different.
Yep.
But then you see moments like that, and then you see when he is singled, and it has a little 4-3, true 3-4 look to it and what he does. And likewise for Jonathan Allen, who played with his hair on fire against his former team, by the way. You understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, and I think what every year Flo and his guys do a really good job of, but sometimes even after they've convinced these guys, hey, this system, it requires all 11 guys to not always just do the jobs of, like in some defenses, one man, one gap. You think about the old, Seattle cover 3 systems, or even the system, previously played at a high level for many years here. It was a little bit more of a, go forward, to beat the guy in front of you. And with all of the different tricks of the trade and tools Flo presents on the edges with pressures and Van Ginkel and Grenard and obviously Harry and Metellus and we've added the corner blitz, at a pretty high clip as of late. That's been pretty impactful.
Right.
It requires some, movement inside to make sure we're gap sound, make sure we can eliminate the problem plays if people recognize some of the things we're trying to do to them. And I think what we've seen out of Grave over the last few weeks is a real commitment to understanding when his snaps are that he's just going to get turned loose and play the way he always has, or when he can use that elite burst, get off athleticism to maybe be a part of that movement, shutting off gaps and causing some real problems for the offensive line, trying to target the front, trying to block the front.
Yeah.
And then knowing that on either of those occasions, you're going to fall into some chances to make some plays, and that's what he's done.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that corner blitz portion of the equation, and I was going to save this for near the end, but Jay Ward out of LSU, I mean, like, did you guys try him at corner a little bit? But he's a safety, and then now, like in that Seattle game, Rodgers is out, and it's like, oh, Jackson Smith and Jigba, hey, baptism by fire here.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter the route. He's playing corner for you now, and a special teams guy. And I have a nugget for you, because you guys blitz Jay Ward. I mean, I'd say sometimes, right?
A lot of the time.
Okay, a lot of the time. And was it the Baltimore or Chicago game where he almost got home? It was one of those two, very close. So therefore, on my game calling depth chart, I got Jay Ward. I got no interceptions, found his last interception at LSU. Then in that game, he almost got a sack, and you had Green Bay next.
Yep.
So I didn't have, when was his last sack? I went to LSU and looked, didn't have one. Went to Colquitt County High School in Georgia and looked, didn't have one. So I approached him after we landed in Appleton. When's your last sack? He said, I've never had one in my life at any level. So if Jay Ward, or when Jay Ward gets a sack, that's going to be the first sack of his life. It's going to be a big deal. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal. I really love Jay Ward. I love,
me too.
One of the reasons why, and I credit Durante and Mike Hutchins and Flo for really trying to find ways of getting guys that have demonstrated a level of physicality and football making sense to them. And I'm not even just talking about the X's and O's. I'm talking about the physicality that it takes to be a major contributor, with how our defense is being attacked right now. The fact that people are trying to feature way more of their run game and control the ball, limit turnover chances, than be putting it up in harm's way and potentially give us a chance to snatch some momentum in a game. So having Jay being able to give us some snaps, whether it is firing off the edge on a corner blitz, whether it is pairing Jay and a safety, maybe in a true overload pressure flow, they can come up with any idea. But what they need and what they've really found in Jay is a level of physicality, tackling in the open field. He had a great play on a kind of a screen out to Deebo Samuel, I believe, at one point. Just kind of didn't make the play, but just showed up and just basically blew up every blocker around the area.
Takes a village.
And then the rest of the crew kind of came in and made the play. But Jay's been a guy that, quietly has been just ascending, getting better and better. the fact of the matter is we've had some really good safeties. Last year, obviously, with the group of 3 guys we had, and then Theo stepping into that role. With Theo being out with some injuries as of late, it's given Jay some opportunities at the safety spot, but they have found ways to get him on the field in addition to that. So I don't know where you put him on your game-calling depth chart. He
behind
could be a
Fabian.
corner. He could be a nickel. He could be a safety, depending on how they deploy Jay Ward, and it's been really cool to see. And I think he's only going to keep getting better and better now, and I'm really proud of what Jay's done this year.
Ekstrom kind of has a job right now, because if Jay gets a sack Sunday night and you beat the Cowboys and we're giving out game balls, we could see that at Vikings.com, and you give one to Jay, remember, it's his first sack at any level of his life.
I promise I will not forget.
I think that's right. Now he's got to get the sack. Now you got to win the game. Kevin O'Connell, X's and O's, KFAN. It's fantastic. Baby and Moreau, off the script for a second. Nobody grades out perfectly. And, I'm not going to say that I break down 23s, back pedal and leverage and hips and the whole thing. All I know is when calling the games, there are not a lot of bad things that are happening over him or with tackles, a lot of whiff tackles or stuff. So, he's a veteran. A lot of people don't know, because Fabian's relatively new here, that he came into the league with Washington. 6 of his 7 interceptions were with them over 4 years, and he jumped into a difficult spot here.
Yep.
And I think he's handled it pretty well.
He's done great. He's obviously, with Jeff Okudah going down, and us really brought Fabian here, wanted to be a part, had a lot of opportunities as one of those veteran kind of guys that can step in and play, guys on the practice squad, had a lot of opportunities. And Fabe wanted to come back here. He wanted to be back in our locker room. And when we were able to get him back here, I told him at some point in time, you really got to look at yourself as a practice squad player, but you got to be ready to start. You got to be ready to play, and you're here because of the poise you're going to be able to play with, the experience that he's played a lot of snaps now over the last few years, and he can contribute on special teams. But I look at Fabian Moreau as an extension of that group of starters that we have at the corner position. And you're right. People, take their shots on him. They try to maybe test him at different times, and he's shown up and made some huge plays on some third downs. Got called for a penalty the other day. It was more of a technique thing, probably more so than anything, but he's totally connected, physical. He still runs at a very, very high level, and he can make plays on the football as well.
And I bring all of this up because you said it with our pregame chat that we do, or maybe in a press conference, about the margin for error being razor thin.
Yep.
You said that like a press conference a couple of weeks ago, and not saying it's still not, off the shutout of Washington, but nevertheless, through the losing and when the time of possession is reasonable in games, I think it's fair to say that your defense has been quite good. I mean, during that 4-game losing streak, they were 25% on third down, the defense.
Yep.
Game after game, and think about that Green Bay game before the deflection off Miles. I mean, how tight that thing was. So I've just been really impressed with a lot of facets of that defense this year, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think you look at from a standpoint of the year-over-year growth of the scheme. Well, there's also people studying, year-round, basically, because we do play a very different style to play against. So people see the Vikings on the schedule, and they really start going to work on, how they're going to want to play and attack. And really, when I say attack, what I've learned about how people play against our defense, it's more about mitigating risk. It's more about limiting your call sheet down, which is the greatest intent that Flo and that group of coaches have, is to try to trim your menu to make you throw off speed pitches, not allow you to do the things that you really want to do week in and week out as offenses are built in this league. And what's happened at times is, people have gotten really big, extra linemen, extra tight ends, and they've just tried to run downhill. And that's when the complementary nature of a team really shows its stripes, because as an offense, like we did the other day, we were able to possess the football. We were able to move it consistently, convert some third downs, and then we were really good in the red zone. All of a sudden, not only are you controlling the ball and the clock, but the teams that want to deploy that game plan, it makes those third downs massive. So when you don't get them against our defense, now you've got to worry about the next drive is going to be a little bit more, okay, we don't get to choose anymore. We've got to expose ourselves to some risk here to try to get the football down the field, to try to generate explosives. And when that happens, that's when you end up with Harrison Smith interception, Andrew Van Ginkel making a Van Ginkel play that we were all waiting for. And you see some of those plays kind of start to come to fruition, but it takes the other two phases doing their job, and that's what Sunday against the Commanders was all about.
Kevin O'Connell, X's and O's. With J.J. McCarthy clearly taking a positive step, but that's what it was. It was a positive step. And, reading and or hearing a lot of things about just a lot of different things. This doesn't mean I have to be right here. But the A topic for me with JJ, and I'm down on the field 2 hours and 15 minutes before every single game. And he's out there with Brosmer and with Groney and other people, and they're playing catch and stuff and warming up. McCarthy had a calm to him into the game, had a calm in the game, had a calm to him after the game. In the press, there was just a surreal calm to him that it seemed intentional, and I thought it was fantastic. I'm not saying that it's going to lead to whatever in the Dallas game. We're going game by game here, one game season, like you'll say. But did you notice that too during the course of the week and maybe in pregame with them?
Yeah, anytime throughout the week where I did not notice that. Him and I, we had a lot of dialogue. We had a lot of conversations. What my goal for him going to the game was, and you're right. I know where you were going previously, where there's been a lot of talk about, what we did and how we've changed, and what we did well was we ran the football well. And we had our first 10 rushing attempts against the Seattle Seahawks, we had 10 yards. Our first 10 rushing attempts against the Commanders, that number looked different. Second down looked different. Third and shorts looked different. So what that allowed is for the entire offense to sequence up with what the plan was for the day to try to play in a certain style. But with JJ, what I've learned, and maybe it came from taking 1 week there for Max to play against the Seahawks when he was in the protocol, but taking a step back and just, after having a pretty good amount of work there over the last few weeks prior, man, if I just throw that completion right there, if on that, second down, instead of trying to take 3 hitches and work the ball down the field, I check the ball down. I put the ball in play, and we end up with a 2nd and 3 into a new set of downs, or a 3rd and manageable where it doesn't feel like we've got to move heaven and earth at the quarterback position to try to stay on the field and sustain drives.
Yeah.
And the whole game plan was about stacking positive plays, and a positive play could be a lot of different things, and we were able to do that as an offense all day long. But I think the other thing for JJ is to, there's a lot been made of fundamentals and technique, and those things, our job as coaches are to try to help players improve, and we've navigated through the season of watching him show improvement in areas of fundamentals and technique. But there's another layer to it with JJ of in certain times of the season, you would get a response of, I thought this player was going to do that, speaking about a defensive player. Or, hey, I played with Mike Sanders still at Michigan. He's real instinctive. He might try to do that. Stop.
Yeah.
Just quiet your mind, and let's not overthink anything other than what is my job on the play.
Wow.
And making good decisions, putting the ball in play, allowing, whether we were in 13 personnel, 22 with C.J. Ham on the field, or 11 or 12, which, Vikings fans are accustomed to seeing. Just every play, there's a positive outcome, and you hold the cards to go finding that positive outcome. And it's amazing just what the calmness you're speaking of simply comes from stacking plays of doing your job and putting the ball in play to Minnesota Vikings players in space, whether it's a 2-yard gain or a 50-yard gain. They're all positive, and they all have a negative effect on the defense, and allows me to continue calling the game within the sequencing of how we practiced on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday on into the game.
That was outstanding. Thank you for opening up like that on X's and O's. If you don't mind, I'd like to also, because after the Lions game, okay, you win and you get that alter ego thing in the locker room, and somebody asked me about it couple of days after, and I'm like, the 9-bit sucks. Okay, if he wants to go with it the rest of his career, go ahead. I don't like it. It's not who he is from the McCarthy that I've gotten to know, and I think that bubble burst too a little bit. You know what I mean? Where with time it'll go away. But isn't that just all part of having a quarterback that age who's supremely talented? And there are just a lot of different things through which to work. Man, he's 10 days younger than my daughter who lives out in Colorado. I kind of look at it through that prism. So I'm like, yeah, I don't dig this because I don't think that's who that kid is. That's who he was in the moment. But it doesn't mean that's who he is. You know
I think if you've learned anything about me, I think you would probably say I'm pretty normally the same guy just about every day. Regardless of circumstance, I do believe.
Well, the whole building is since you got here. That's why I love this job now more than I ever have.
Well, I just think that, you better have confidence and you better have a comfort in who you are to be in certain roles. And I think being the starting quarterback of an NFL team is one of those things. All I've asked JJ to do is just be authentically himself. That's really all we've ever asked players playing that position. Whether you go back to Kirk Cousins in 2022 and people said, man, who is this guy? It was just trying to allow these guys to be ultra comfortable in front of their teammates, in the huddle, on the grass, in the meeting room, whatever you want to say. Part of helping guys reach their truest potential is helping them be themselves every single day. And I think at times, guys try to, and maybe it is the moment. And if it's authentic in the moment, fire away. Let's have at it. But we don't need to exhaust any energy. Our jobs are hard enough already.
Thank you.
Trying to be somebody else or trying to play to some sort of persona, whatever it may be. Let's just go back to work, man.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to work and try to get better every single day. And when we do have moments like Sunday and we could take a step back like JJ and I were able to do, and I told him I was proud of him. I was just proud of the way from the moment you showed up on Wednesday all the way through flipping you that game ball afterwards, it just felt like the guy that he can be for us. And it felt like it's repeatable, more importantly. It felt like it's something that regardless of simplification of scheme and changing our stripes as an organization and all the things that it comes down to some very simple principles of the Minnesota Vikings, and not just JJ. We had a great day from our offensive line as well. We had a great day with that was the most snaps that that group of 5 that we selected to be our offensive line, either first round pick in the draft with Donovan, who's toughed out through an ankle injury to not be denied playing in the game, to Christian Darrisaw playing, the better part of that game till we started taking some starters out. Brian O'Neill was fantastic again. Ryan Kelly played by far, what I thought his best game since he's been a Minnesota Viking. And then Will Fries just continues to be an ultra consistent guy who's getting better and better and working through, his comfort level in our offense as well. But we had that group for the whole day. And if you didn't notice, Josh Oliver was blocking anybody and everybody on Sunday, and the pancake count got up into the high single digits at one point. Impressive day from a lot of guys, but our quarterback had a lot to do with it.
Lastly, on the quarterback and the 1998 and 12 for 12 minutes, masterful. I've seen a lot of them. Can't say I've ever seen one of those. Was JJ's throw to Addison on 3rd and 8 right in front of you one of his best of the season? And the reason I bring it up like that, and I know you talked about it at your press conference yesterday, I just want to amplify it a little bit. Good pocket, stepped up, went right hash to left sideline, which is a long throw. And that just seemed to personify a quiet mind.
Well, what it was it was a great example of, regardless of what the defense does, set your feet, and with great fundamentals and technique that he is wildly capable of consistently doing with repeatable, efficient mechanics. But it was about, hey, Justin's the primary on the play. And he had his eyes in the right spot. The pocket was good. Great everything that JJ can control. But then the decision-making of not needing 3 hitches to decide Justin wasn't open. It was a decisive decision, which allowed his body position and the ability to drive that football, like you said, not an easy throw.
But the pocket fanned and he stepped. It was just beautiful.
It felt like it's supposed to feel, and I thought that was a great example of him playing at a very high clip when we needed some 3rd down conversions. PA to not only have that drive, but starting fast early on in the game. We didn't have one on that first drive, but it's not like we just ran the ball every snap either. He made some big throws, and even the first one of the day to Ben Sims. You say ho hum, it's an 8-yard gain. But that's an example of him versus a pretty unique coverage look. They're dropping out of D lineman. They're playing inverted 2 deep. just throw completions, man. Good things are going to happen.
All right. Wow. A couple of quickies to close here for the head coach. Donovan Jackson plays hurt, cares deeply. You guys hit on a good one with him. We talked about that. Yeah, I mean, holy cow. 3 TDs for your tight ends. Was that a product of just quickly loving the matchups into the game, or a result of how things developed during the blowout?
No, it was more of game planning for the week. We really wanted to, there was a method to try to pair some of those groupings. We were doing some things out of those groupings besides just getting big to run the ball, which we were able to do in the game, adding extra gaps and using some physicality with knowing we were going to have that group, that offensive line group out there as well. But then what it allowed us to do is we also threw the ball out of those groupings and in some cases spreading out the formations and trying to make guys uncomfortable in different spots throughout that defense, all well just trying to give, JJ answers too. You can't ask him to throw completions and be willing to check the ball down and then not have those options available to him. And I think when you go back and watch through his tape throughout the season, when he's decisive, even when he is checking the ball down, good things normally happen not only on that play, but the plays afterwards. He also stole some first downs for us with his legs. I thought that backed up third down was a critical play to kind of get it kick-started there.
From the end zone?
Yeah. From when he got out right there. And there's a learning op there. I mean, there's a protection call on a third down. If he makes that, he probably throws another completion. We don't, and he's able to still make it right by using that athleticism to get out and steal us a new set of downs.
All right, there's one at the end off your press conference yesterday I have to get in. So before that, here's the penultimate. What leads you to taking the ball when winning the toss?
Yeah, I wanted to. I think first and foremost, we're learning a little bit more about with the fact that so many more kickoff returns are being put in play. The days of the starting field position, especially, I have a lot of confidence in Miles Price back there.
I wasn't thinking about that part.
So if he gets that ball past the 30-yard line, and in the case to start the game the other day, it was the 39-yard line. Great return, great execution by our guys, by Matt Daniels coaching that up, and we have the ball at the 39-yard line. You get one first down, PA, you're at midfield. Yeah. And then the way Ryan Wright's punted the ball, even if you only get one, we're allowing our defense to potentially start fast. But the ultimate decision for me on Sunday is, awareness is key as a head coach. And I was very aware that we had not played well at home, at least from a results standpoint since the Cincinnati game. And I wanted to take the ball. I wanted to go score. I wanted to give Vikings fans a chance to, not say, here we go again, but say, okay, maybe today's going to be different. And then like I totally expected, they were fantastic. The defense takes the field. They get that fourth down stop, and then we go 98 for a touchdown. But the number one goal of the week was to start fast. From the time I met with the team on Wednesday and said, hey, here, we want to win the turnover battle. I'm tired of talking about it. Let's win the turnover battle, and let's start fast in the process of doing so. And if that means we end up getting a lead defense, I think you're going to get some opportunities to take the ball away. The number one priority on offense is to protect the football, because we know what those numbers look like when we do some of those things within the game that give us very, very high likelihoods of winning.
Okay, lastly, because I didn't really understand what you were saying during your press conference yesterday.
A lot of people don't.
Well, I mean, but I would ask you to the side if I didn't understand. This just happens to be the side, and everybody gets to see and hear. Because we got Sunday Night Football coming up, which means longer TV breaks. I mean, shoot, you can build a village in that huddle before they scatter and come back from the break. And that's what I mean, is you went down the road of, I can't remember who asked you about, like, Chambliss is running out and this guy's running out and coming back. And you were talking about like a TV timeout game with huddles and stuff like that. Like what is that?
The question was, Washington, Cliff Kingsbury, since he's been in the NFL, they don't huddle. So if Vikings fans who were at the game or you were watching at home, what we call a muddle huddle, a messy, they just basically stand at the line of scrimmage. They still sub as if they're just going to huddle up, call a play, and then go. But what they try to do is it makes it hard with the NFL rules of substitutions. You'll see it in college sometimes a lot more.
So whether you go base, nickel, or dime.
But you're allowed to get a chance to match whatever they put in the game. So if they wanted to go from 13 personnel, which is 1 back, 3 tight ends, and 1 receiver, to 11 personnel, and bring in 2 receivers for 2 of those tight ends. The officials have to give Flo and the group a chance to then match that.
It's like a hockey change.
It happened to us early in the year, if you remember, where they held the snap because there was a late sub by us.
At the Chargers, maybe, or around there?
It was, I believe it was at a home game earlier in the year. But they held that, and we ended up taking a delay on the play because the play clock means nothing to those officials. But what Flo and the group decided to do was, as he kind of cycles through what personnel grouping he wanted to have on,
I see.
Let's make sure we're starting the process of substitutions, even if it ends up changing. And it kind of had a little bit of a hockey line change feel to it much of the day. But every time that happens,
it's strategic.
It's also causing the counter effect for Cliff and those guys of what is in the game. We don't even know what's in the game. The play clock's the quarterback's gonna shut off at 15 seconds, and now they've got to. We were trying to basically take something that's an advantage for them and turn it into an advantage for us. Flo and I talked a lot about it, but my beef with the TV timeouts that I go to the league meetings and bring up with my good buddy Sean McVay and Coach Tomlin on the competition committee every year is this: when we're in a TV timeout, we're not allowed to have 14 guys out in the huddle. The defense can have as many players as they want in the huddle. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to be on the field defensively. You can't run a lot of plays with your 11 group against base defense. There's just not a lot, unless you want Jalen Naylor blocking defensive ends and linebackers all day. There's just not a lot of things you can do. So you're trying to weave through what's on the field for them. And there's some people upstairs trying to tell me. I'm trying to see with my own eyes. But then what happens is we come back from a commercial or two and we pop in that play clock ready for play, 25 seconds, bam. And then they scatter, and what's in the game, what's not. There's about 18 seconds on the play clock. Now you've got to get a play called within 3 seconds. So they're very detailed about what we do in the offensive huddle. You can't have 12 in the huddle ever. If you're subbing, you really shouldn't have 12 guys in between the numbers. But defensively during those TV timeouts, they can have the whole football team stand in the mascot, 3 coaches, and they're all out there in the huddle.
Right.
As an offensive coach, not to ramble, but that's what I was trying to explain. There's some unique kind of gamesmanship to the strategy.
And it's strategery with those running on to the numbers. And then running back. Oh, I'm starting to get it now. You're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. That's X's and O's. Back after this. Let's hear from Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores about these Cowboys.
If they sub, then we can sub. So, that's really kind of the rule. So, we throw those guys in there.
Brent, do you have any history with a player who, like Eric Wilson at age 31, kind of gets this opportunity and has taken such advantage of it? Like, is there any historical precedent for you in your mind with a guy like this in a year like this?
No, I would say there's nobody that really, jumps out. The guy I think of is that, is Zach Bond, who kind of went from to being kind of a rotational player to, going to Philly last year and, taking on a huge role. But he's younger, obviously. But to kind of have that type of, rotational player jump to, somebody who's, week in and week out making plays, that would really be the only name. But like I said, he's a lot younger. I've said this, in numerous production meetings. I wish I had Edub, 5 years ago. Or when he was 25. I think he's smart. He's tough. He loves to play. He loves to practice. He wants to get better. He's trying to improve on a daily basis. I think Mike Sorrello's done a great job with him, kind of, bringing out the things that he really does well, and us trying to put him in positions to do those things. He's a really good blitzer. He plays well in tandem with Cash and really with, other players. And he's been impactful. He really has, both on the field and off. And, I'm excited for him and his growth and his ability to just take advantage of these opportunities. And we need him. And we'll certainly need him this week against this Dallas group.
What is it that makes him specifically a good blitzer? Is that just that he's a mismatch for running backs? Like, what do you see when he's blitzing?
Yeah, I think it's I don't want to say a mismatch, but he's a good blitzer. And he knows how to beat backs, but he also knows how to manipulate the protection from the backer position to run picks games and allow himself or someone else to come, potentially come free, especially, if it's a 2-on-2 situation, you're blocking me, Ben's blocking somebody else and we run a pick stunt. You know what I mean? So it's just a little different there. So
Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, talking about Eric Wilson and the matchup coming up against the Dallas Cowboys. Something that we will be discussing during the course of the week that is 9 to noon, which includes a Friday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Plymouth this Friday. Our final segment is next. Hey, B, just quickly, because you're the current Wild aficionado in this three-person covenant, and I didn't watch the Seattle game last night.
Yes.
Was last night's victory more a result of Wild domination or the fact when I was looking at game logs yesterday, I had no idea the Kraken had fallen off as badly as they have of late, and the Wild have beaten them in Seattle every time they've met, I think, except for the very first game that they met when Seattle became a franchise. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it almost felt like not going through the motions. I think that's a little harsh, but just playing the game and nothing spectacular until the Zuccarello hit happened, and that seemed to wake everybody up. It's one of those games that you win, but you come out feeling like an L because Boldy had to leave the ice, Middleton had to leave the ice, and Zuccarello gets his, from just an absolutely dirty hit, gets his bell rung. So you come out, not a lot of bodies, and you have to kind of recoup going into the next game.
Yep, good for the Wild. The next game will be Thursday against the Dallas Stars. Speaking of Dallas, a big week for the Minnesota Core 4 against Dallas-related teams, where you have the Stars Thursday night at Grand Casino Arena. Cowboys a Sunday night there on a Sunday Night Football on KFAN. Bob Sturm is a radio star in the Dallas market, and he'll join the show tomorrow at 9 o'clock to chat about the Stars and also about this Vikings-Cowboys game. Florio joins tomorrow at 9:40, and John Hines, coach of the Minnesota Wild, right around 11 o'clock. Thank you very much for listening today for Double B, guiding the Great Ship Love Covenant, and Nordo, the on-site producer at the TCO radio studio. I'm Paul Allen. That's 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. Have a wonderful day.
Going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.